One of my favorite filmmakers working today, and someone who's impressed me with every single movie he has directed, is Jason Reitman. He has directed 8 films, and I have loved all of them. He is a filmmaker mostly interested in telling stories about real people dealing with unique problems and how they attempt to deal with the troubles that befall them. Each movie he has directed has tackled a different subject. Sometimes he focuses on youth finding their place in an adult world. Other times he'll make movies about adults overcoming the responsibilities foisted upon them. And each one of his films has a great screenplay that balances tone really well and captures what his characters are thinking and feeling. Reitman is not a director who has made the same movie twice, as he continually attempts to challenge himself. Whether it's a movie about a pregnant teenage girl, or a mother of 3, or a young adult author, or a company spokesperson, Jason Reitman's movies often feature dynamic leads who draw our attention in unique ways. One thing that struck me about revisiting many of his films is that the lead protagonist will sometimes be someone who, in another movie, would be a cliché supporting character. Reitman allows us into their lives to truly get to know them. Young Adult, for example, is about a woman who attempts to get romantically involved with a former flame who is now married. In other movies, Mavis would be the homewrecker who ruins her ex-boyfriend Buddy's life, and that's all we find out about her. Young Adult instead seeks to explore why she's so fixated on being with him, why it's pathetic, and also how she's genuinely viewed by the rest of the townsfolk. Up in the Air centers on Ryan Bigham, who is hired to fly to different companies and fire their employees. In another movie, Ryan would be the villain we root against for terminating these hard-working people's jobs. In Up in the Air, we see why Ryan does this, why he feels it's a necessary job, and the careful planning that goes into doing it. In fact, Reitman's films don't have villains. There are antagonists, sure, and people with unlikable traits, but not villains. Sometimes the unlikable character is the lead. Thank You for Smoking, a comedy about a spokesperson for the tobacco companies, is a great example of this. Nick Naylor is someone we should hate due to him being an advocate for cigarette companies and the way he gleefully goes about this. And yet, he's incredibly charming and strangely likable. Like Reitman's other films, Thank You for Smoking does not have a villain. We instead have 2 opposing sides: Naylor's pro-cigarette lobbying and a Vermont senator's anti-smoking campaign, and how they go about supporting their stances, occasionally in sneaky and underhanded ways. Reitman does not want us to view his characters in simple black and white terms, and they instead end up as complex figures that subvert our expectations. When we first meet the Lorings in Juno, Mark seems like he'll be the easygoing, cool adoptive father of Juno's child, while Vanessa is stuck up and too serious. However, as the movie plays on, we find out that Mark has trouble growing up, and Vanessa shows more signs of being a caring and supportive parent. Reitman is also able to try different sorts of movies. With Labor Day, he took a spin at directing a pulpy romance, depicting the love that forms between an escaped prisoner and a single mother. While all of his previous movies had elements of comedy, this one threw all of his previous filmmaking roles out the window, and instead focused on the intimacy of the 2 leads. It's a movie that succeeds at building up the tension more and more, as all sorts of forces could come down to separate Frank and Adele. With men, women, and children, rather than focus on a few main characters, we follow an entire ensemble. Reitman used that as an opportunity to comment on the rise of social media usage and the contrast between how young people view current technology versus their parents. Like his other movies, the emphasis is on these normal suburban people just living their lives, whether it's 2 teenagers who form a relationship as they attempt to deal with their parents' disappointment, or a woman who grows concerned about potentially becoming an inappropriate stage mother. The high school scenes, with text message balloons appearing over the students' heads, especially make for an interesting contrast with Juno, where Reitman purposely made sure no mobile phones appeared on screen. Another thing I appreciate about his work is that he likes his main characters, and wants us to like them too. Tully, for example, becomes a tribute to motherhood, as we watch the main character Merlo try to juggle being a mother of 3. Reitman does give his characters flaws, but makes sure to show where these flaws originate so there's an understanding where they come from. The Frontrunner, his first movie based on a real person, is able to show off why Gary Hart was such a charismatic and popular candidate who had a real shot of the presidency before all came crashing down. Reitman does not let Hart off the hook, but instead allows us to get a sense of his decision-making and why he made certain choices. The Frontrunner is also a good example of how Reitman uses his protagonist to explore larger themes. That movie uses Hartman's failed campaign to look into the difference between legitimate reporting and the tabloids. That added element allows The Frontrunner to become more than just a biographical film, and touches on a topic still relevant today. Up in the Air also uses Ryan's profession as a way to look at how the recession affected hard-working people, and the importance of support when someone is fired. One of Jason Reitman's most fruitful partnerships has been with screenwriter Diablo Cody, with whom he has collaborated on 3 movies, and she has brought an important voice to the films too. First, there was Juno, which was about how teenagers feel the need to grow up too quickly. This is shown not just through Juno's pregnancy, but also the way in which her relationship with her close friend Polly changes, how she starts spending more time with Mark Loring, and even the way she goes from place to place. Their next project together, Young Adult, was about an adult trying hard to recapture her teenage years. So a clever flip on the themes they explored in Juno, but still in a way that felt fresh and original, as Mavis is someone who's mostly unapologetic in her actions, but she's more pathetic than outright hateful. With Tully, we see a mother wanting to show she's a good parent and wife, but is continually pulled towards her younger, more carefree years. These 3 Diablo Cody scripts are especially good with showing natural conversations between the characters, whether it's Juno and her best friend Leah, Mavis and her voice of reason Matt, or Marlowe and her night nanny Tully. Reitman has written the screenplays for all of his other projects, but whenever he's directing a Cody script, she is the sole writer. It's a really beautiful working and collaborative relationship that is formed between the two, which only strengthens the quality of these movies. Right now, Jason Reitman is currently hard at work with the new Ghostbusters movie. This is its first big franchise film after a career of doing smaller movies, and of course there's also the family element of continuing a series originally directed by his father, Ivan Reitman. However, while the movie will certainly have its array of special effects and ghost catching, Reitman's interest in telling human stories about real people remains, as the sequel will reportedly center on a single mother and her 2 children, who get involved in this business of busting ghosts. Jason Reitman is the main reason I'm excited for Ghostbusters 2020. That it's Ghostbusters related is just a nice cherry on top. I have loved every movie of his, and so for me, anytime he comes out with a new one, it's an event. The stories he brings to the screen are able to be warm, funny, biting, satirical, sympathetic, and most importantly, capture a vital part of the human experience. Juno is my personal favorite of his, but he's one of those directors where I probably cannot even rank his work. I don't even have a least favorite Jason Reitman film. He's a director who always tries to test himself and never makes the same film twice. See you next time.